Hello. Today we're going to hang out in the living room a little bit. And here are some dogs. A very punky piece of firewood. We're running low on firewood around here. I mean, there's always a load of stuff outside. But this year I've been purchasing firewood as well from a local provider. This is not from them. This is whatever I've salvaged from the woods. And that has led to some interesting experiences, among which was making this hatchet handle from a piece of firewood that came. And I need to make a correction on this point because I realized that, contrary to as previously stated, the grain in this hatchet handle is completely in the wrong alignment in theory. The grain is running up the way, like this. So totally wrong. However, the curliness of it may provide some extra shock resistance such that also I made it very thick. It's not going to break. It's not going to break anytime soon because it's just a, light duty hatchet. And so I started using it to carve an axe handle yesterday. So on my channel recently, I went and, to anyone who might have seen, I went and cut down this standing dead cherry. And I got I split parts of it that were about 6 foot long. Well, twice whatever this is about. Yeah, that's about 6 foot. But it wasn't looking good to make one whole pole. There was a bit of a, anyway, I thought kind of axe handles could be good. And I have, let me just show you quickly a little invention. These are these bamboo straws, picked up somewhere, stuck them together with tape. Works every bit as well as bellows. Just use your lungs. I guess some people think it's disrespectful to blow on the fire. Maybe it's to do with intention. We get too soon old and too late smart. Right, so back to where I was on this table. We got some cool stuff. Harnesses for the dogs, so I can get them hauling logs. Yeah, that's just in the mail today. Right, so I started carving this out of the other side of that, I guess it was. Oh no, well, the other half of this. I cut this in half, and because I had this splitting axe, and I think the last maybe 2 winters it's been out of commission pretty much because of that. At some point I said, well, I got to stop using this and patch it while I still can, because I figured that if I glue in a piece of wood, a piece of hickory or maybe a piece of lilac, something really solid, glue that in there, I can pour epoxy down that gap there and then wrap the whole thing. And I'm still 100% certain that would be a good result. And it would be pretty much, not quite as good as new, but in some ways better, because twine epoxy will take a beating far better than this wood here. And eventually could be replaced, But to do it properly, which I would want to do it properly, I would want to carve that flat and then carve the other piece so that it was as exact a fit as possible. You know, get a really exact fit. And you know, it would be complex. It would be complicated. I can visualize it, but it would take longer than I think it should. So I would imagine it would take maybe 2-3 hours to do the whole thing, get it all done. Well, that means it would probably take 6 or 12 hours or something, 6 or 9. And so, yeah, I decided instead to just make a new handle using some of this cherry. And this is what I come up with so far. I tried to go for start out making basically a copy, but it is taking on its own characteristic. It doesn't have quite the same dramatic swoop as the original, so it's a little straighter. And it's still a bit wider this way, and we might be getting thinner in this direction now. And so what I gather is, you know, you can really get them pretty thin in this direction. And the thinner, the better. You get better shock absorption, you get, etc. Whippiness. Acceleration, I guess, or whatever. So this head, it's a Swedish-style splitting axe, which apparently maybe, from what I just gathered from, I think it's Ben Scott's channel, is meant for splitting this way, you know, rather than splitting down around, you would have it laid out, and that's why they give it this long shape. Anyway, I seem to have pretty good success with this as a kind of a light to middleweight splitter, you know, smaller stuff, and it's Hultsbruk, I think, yeah. Made in Sweden, 3.5 pounds. Lovely thing. I think I like the style of this kind of splitting axe anyway. Some people apparently don't think they're very good for splitting. I'm not an expert, so I don't really know. But that's what it is, and that's what the handle's going to go on, and it's you can take a little closer look at the handle, how it's going. I've been using a knife and a file. More lately, a file. Well, to start out, a hatchet. Excuse me, of course, the hatchet there. This I could have used, but I didn't. But just got that there to show it off. I like to keep it near the fire. The workhorse. So some of this is still knife texture. We've got some checking there. I'll come back to that. But you know, obviously we can just cut that part out. And some of the texture now is from the file. So we got some really nice crazy grain. Even a little piece of this brown outer patch down there and up there. When it's wet, it looks great, let me tell you. I don't mind because I'll be showing it again, that it's probably not going to look that great right now. But you get an idea. Lighting's not very good, is it? Right, so on the topic of twine epoxy, I was just rethinking that again, and because I was like, you know, this is what happens with a splitting axe. If you're not that good with accuracy, sooner or later you're gonna start doing this. And even if you are good with accuracy, but you know, you make it through and then the log catches here and this bit just takes a pounding. So I was thinking, well, how can some people, you know, there's systems for putting a piece of metal here or whatever, or you put some kind of wrap. So yeah, I figured, go with the twine epoxy wrap, which is what I should have done on this one in the first place. Because that'll take the beating and much better than the wood, and eventually if it gets worn out, can just cut it off. You know, whatever. It's not so simple as cut it off. It's going to be pretty tough to get it off, but you know, you get it off again with a chisel or whatever, hammer and a chisel, and then replace it. And so thinking about that, I also thought, well, maybe I will do a wrap down here as well, just to make sure that the butt doesn't check, because that is a pretty typical thing. And this old handle, the grain orientation is pretty good. And so on the topic of grain orientation, now, of course, what we have is a half round. You can kind of make out the grain there. Yeah? So the grain is not going straight like this, it's going like that. But is that a bad thing? Well, certainly, if you were to put this handle between two chairs right now like this and jump up and down on it, that it would be stronger in that direction, in principle. Of course, that shouldn't count when you're chopping down. But what if you're doing, when you're splitting, you're doing that flick at the end, maybe there. There could be some torsion. And I also have an axe handle I'm making out of a full round, out of an applewood branch. And that is not turning out as well as this, I don't think, really. But this is more conventional. The other thing is like a mole handle, very chunky thing. So I might show that later. But what I was of a mind to do is maybe, since I had so much fun making this axe handle, I might make another one using this and take some footage of that, how I'm working it with the hatchet and the knife and the file and so forth. And actually I have another one of these Swedish heads. It's a bigger one. Now that applewood handle was going to go to that, but maybe I'll just keep the applewood handle as like a bat and make a kind of a matching one to this, because I can make it a little bigger, quite a lot bigger. Yeah, so that's what I've been up to over the weekend, and that's what I'm going to be up to in the coming days. So I'd like to make some more videos about that for anyone who's interested in this kind of stuff. There are a lot of channels out there that do axe handles and shopping and all that stuff. And they all do it a lot better than me. I'm an amateur. But the amateur perspective may be interesting. For example, most people who are making axe handles, from what I've seen, they start out with a nice big blank of some big, thick old ash tree. And, it's a pure process of kind of stock removal in a more conventional sense, where you're starting out with everything quadratic, what would you say? Rectangle, cut that out on a bandsaw, and you can put in an octagon, and that this is all done by eye, right? Where I just chopped it out, roughed it out with a hatchet, and then onto the knife and the file, and the knife's really doing the brunt of the shaping.